Welcome to the Did You Dream About the Gridiron podcast. Today's episode will be about this man. You guys can see that. Let me grab this actually so I can give you guys a really good view. This man right there, and the originator of the most important play in San Francisco 49ers history, the receiver on the catch, Dwight Clark. I met Dwight Clark back in 2012 during the 30th anniversary of the catch. That's where he signed my helmet and drew out the play. He was actually there with Everson Walls, the defensive back, who had the assignment of guarding him on that play, right? And so obviously on 3rd and 3, obviously Montana, he bootlegs out to the right, looking, right? Vince Scully, that famous call, right? Looking, and then he throws in, caught, Dwight Clark got him, caught by Dwight Clark, right? And so ultimately the catch, was one of the most significant plays, not only in 49ers history, but in NFL history, for a variety of reasons, right? I think Dwight, was one of those guys who basically was so selfless. When I actually got to meet him, I met him it was at Lefty Sport Cards, if I'm not mistaken, out in San Mateo, San Carlos. And essentially that's where they were having the event. And, Dwight was very, very kind and generous. He was very nice to, myself, to other, 49ers fans. And, he was one of those guys who basically, you could talk about anything. It's actually, the event was about him and the catch, right? But essentially he was talking about everything. Him and Everson Walls talking about, we're talking about UFC fighters, and literally they said, verbatim, yeah, those UFC fighters, man, they do all types of shit, And but yeah, basically with Dwight, he was he was drafted, I think in the 80 draft, maybe the 80. No, I think 78 draft. 78 draft, and then essentially, he played for the 49ers out of Clemson, former, Clemson Tiger. Rich history there for football, South Carolina. And essentially, Dwight, from 1980, he played for the 49ers, I believe, for 9 seasons, right? Was it from 80 to 87? I think around 8, 9 seasons, 7, 8, 9 seasons, right? With Montana. And, with that play, and just with Dwight Clark's career, he basically was able to help catapult the 49ers to their first ever Super Bowl appearance, which is this ring right over here. For those of you guys who are watching this, either on Spotify or YouTube, this is the first ever, Super Bowl of the Niners, Super Bowl 16. So, obviously Dwight's career in retrospective, I look at it as, the 6'4", 200+ pound receiver coming out of Clemson. He had the body to where he could still play in the NFL today. And, he was definitely one of those teammates who, if you ask anyone about him, I had the fortune to meet Roger Craig not too long after I met Dwight, that same year, that, he basically said Dwight was one of the best guys in the locker room. I heard Ronnie Long and KNBR also kind of just talk about Dwight. And, he basically, everyone who ever played with Dwight, they would all say the same thing. So Dwight was a great guy. Ultimately for me, meeting him, he basically asked me, because this is during the 2012 offseason. I was still trying to make it on an arena team, kind of an indoor team, semi-pro, whatever you want to call it. Not even close to the level. In my opinion, not close to the level of the NFL. And he was very gracious, and he showed me a lot of respect. He definitely gave me some good advice, about the receiver position. Because during this time, I was still just trying to make my headway and trying to learn, but even then, I was a special teams player, but, he kind of talked to me about, what it's like, to play at the highest level, talk to me about what it's like, to go through the NFL combine. And, even though he did it in the late 70s and the early 80s, there's a lot of stuff that, that's still relevant today, the vertical, the broad jump, the bench press, everything, route running techniques. And, Dwight, obviously, being inducted into the Bay Area Hall of Fame, the 49ers Hall of Fame, he's one of the greatest players in Niners history, for obviously the reasons of the catch, but just obviously, being that guy, being Montana's first ever go-to kind of target, before John Taylor, before Jerry Rice, before, all these other guys. And, I think Dwight Clark, proved himself to be, a very, very reliable target. He fit Bill Walsh's system and scheme so well in the West Coast offense because, Bill Walsh, basically, the reason Bill Walsh came with the West Coast offense was to give us something we'd never seen before as fans, and actually, let me move this a little bit. And, ultimately, kind of, with this guy right here, the West Coast offense was just, was designed. Jerry Rice could play any position in the West Coast offense, right? But essentially, from my perspective, I think Dwight was able to really prove, how an oversized receiver can still, with route running and with athleticism, right? I mean, obviously, like, key core competencies that are required to basically, play the receiver position. He proved how, anyone who has the ability, and anyone who really want to put the work in can definitely make a difference in the NFL. And obviously with the 49ers, the West Coast offense, I mean, it was so innovative, to how it revolutionized the league. I mean, the Air Coryell offense was there too, obviously. Chuck Knox that also had, that offense, that he was running, but I still feel that, the West Coast offense definitely revolutionized the game of American football. Dwight was obviously, one of the key pioneers of that, So, we definitely have to give him his flowers. Anyways, I mean, Dwight was just such a gracious, it was great. It was great for me meeting him. It was a great experience. For him to draw out the play, let me see if I can show you guys this again, but for him to draw out this play on this helmet, I mean, I don't know if you guys can. I mean, it's so intricate. It's so intricate how he drew it out. And, he had to make sure he didn't miss the holes, from the hole. I mean, it was incredible, so. I think ultimately for me, Dwight inspired me. I'm sure he inspired many others, obviously, during his time playing. I didn't actually get to see him physically play live in the game because it's before my time. But obviously being able to watch the highlights on YouTube and, and all over an NFL Films network, and obviously being able to meet him, it was definitely an honor. It was definitely a great experience. Obviously, for him being part of, the two Super Bowl runs, the first two Super Bowl runs of the Niners, Super Bowl 16, Super Bowl 19, he's definitely, a cornerstone of the 49ers. And the catch, obviously, I mean, that was just one of the greatest plays ever. I mean, you can watch it anytime. I mean, it's just for me because it's if you look fast forward, maybe I want to say 27 years later, to when the Giants, 26 years later, when the Giants had to go and play the Patriots in Super Bowl 42, and then Eli Manning, the helmet catch, right? Same situation, third down. Eli's about to get sacked. He escapes it and he lobs it up. Joe Montana, on the other hand, he's also about to get sacked, but he bootlegs out to the right, and then essentially, I mean, it's the same situation in terms of the pressure. I mean, the pressure was coming fast, hard, and I mean, it was just, I mean, the situational awareness of Joe, the situational awareness of Dwight, and just the ability to step up, in those clutch moments. Is why Joe Montana established himself as the greatest quarterback of all time. But obviously, like, he said in the post game, like, without my receiving, he's like, I'm fortunate to have such great receivers to make the plays, right? And Dwight, obviously, being that great receiver to make that play. So Dwight, obviously, like, he was just a great player, great human being. And then, talking more about ALS, I mean, he mentioned that, in the interview, a few years prior to his death, that he felt that the concussions and his football definitely had a part in acquiring ALS. And we've seen other NFL players, OJ Brugance, Steve Gleason, many others who have died of ALS, playing the NFL. So it's good that the game has gotten safer. And I mean, it's just it's really remarkable to see the players who are still able to play like a Tom Brady or others, at such a high level. But, it's remarkable to even see, like, guys and players who have had to fight and battle through ALS, such as Dwight. And, I really think that, it was he had a great career, and he's forever missed. He's forever missed. So anyways, this is my short and sweet tribute to Dwight Clark, number 87. God bless, brother. And, hope you guys enjoy this episode, and, more to come.